welcome back to the channel. The last thing I was building was an aluminium historic race car body for a Riley, and now up on the chopping block is this Mustang. So the customer is going to be running bigger wheels on this because it is a rally car, and as you can see up in the front, the all-terrain tyres are touching the front guard. That guard needs to be able to come back a little bit, so I'll be opening up the guards on this, front and rear, because it is a little bit close down here in the rear. And then I'm probably going to go about 20 mil wider on this flare. So it'll be like a flare, but fully fitted up to the body, TIG welded in, not bolt in, and looking as it should do, kind of factory original-ish, but just a lot wider for these bigger wheels on here. So I'm going to start cutting it up and then making some sort of template in here for the front guards and the rear quarter. And he does have a race soon, so I'll probably do the rear quarters first, so the shop that this has come from, they can do some other bodywork things while I do the front guards on this. So I'll start making some sort of template and get after it. I hope this quarter panel's not full of fog. It's a bit ugly. I've done a little bit of rough sort of taping up in here, that way I can visually see what's going on and see that new wheel arch shape. And then you can see down in here, I've opened it up and cut this sill back a bit, so then now you've got clearance for that tyre in there. And that's the sort of rally style for this kind of car. That's how the customer wants it. So next thing I'll go is doing some more lines up and through here, mark out fold lines and that sort of thing, put another tape over the top, and then I'll actually be able to use that as a template as well for cutting out the steel blanks. I've roughly shaped this panel kind of to the quarter, sort of the way it needs to sit, so I can pretty much start hammering it up in this shape that it needs to naturally sit, and I'll be hammering between these lines just in here, stretching that zone before I start doing a reverse up in here and then shrinking this front edge around. So I'll start hammering up in there and then we can move into some other areas. I've hammered up some shape into this wheel arch now. I don't know if you'll really see it on the camera, but there's a fair bit of curve in there, and I think that'll be the right amount of curve that I need for this job. I have made a bit of a template, so I can use the template on the other side and on the front guard, so I've got that curvature the same through them all. So it is fitting up to the body the way that I want it, and that's looking nice there. And there's a fair bit that's going to reverse up in here to match that body shape in through here. So I've marked out some lines on the back side here, and that is going to need a fair bit of stretching as that reverses back up into the other spot. So I'm going to jump on the wheel, stretch all that out, and get a fair bit of shape in there, but it is kind of tight. So I've got this nice new mini wheel from Heron Forbes, and it takes these nice little dies. So that little tight radius that I'm going to have for those tight little spots, I think this wheel is going to be perfect for it. So it'll be a good test run. I haven't used it yet. So we'll see how it goes on this wheel arch. As I suspected, it's quite full of filler. There's a fair chunk of filler in here, and there was a fair bit in here too. So I've ground it back to kind of where it wears away, and I'll have to give this area a bit of a tap up prior to putting the new guard on. I've sort of ground it away where I do need to cleco it in and mark a line, and then down in here too there's some filler as well. So I've got to clean up these areas and give those a bit of a tap up prior to clecoing and welding this in. One thing I will add as well, cutting this original lip off when I was doing my templates, and why I cut this one on this side as well, is I use the same template both sides, then I know they're both going to be the same and the opening's the same, but having this lip here and tacked in place gives me a shape of kind of what that shape should be out this way, and then it also gives me an edge that when I have made this part coming out here and flaring out, I've got an edge that I can mark off, run a pen around there, scribe it. That will give me a point in where I need to turn that and that lip come back. So you can use this as well, using that lip just for shrinking and stretching that edge to the right shape and a point of where I can scribe. So I've been over to the shop where this car came from, as it's back in the workshop getting some work on it. Right now I'm just marking out a little bit of a rough line on where to put my clay, just for the transition point, and it'll give me just a rough guide of where to come to. I'll build it up just a bit more, but that's just a rough line of where I'm going to build this up to. And I have already gone to the shop where this car is, because they're doing some extra work on it, getting ready for a race. But I've put this on the car, cut this guard out more for the room that it needs on the wheel. So this has all been cut out, lips been extended, fit up, tyres been compressed up into the arch to check for clearance and that sort of thing, because it is going to be a rally car and it's going to have a lot of flex in the front end. So that's been fitted up in here. Now I'm just marking this line out, and then I'll start laying the clay in. I'm cutting this up into some smaller chunks. That way I can heat this up with a heat gun. Ideally, you'd do it in an oven, but I don't have a little oven. So I can get the heat gun on this, give it a little bit of warmth, and then start laying this down into here and shaping it up. I've already worked on this and made this flare on this guard already. So one thing I forgot was showing you how the applicators work and what they're like. I borrowed my mate's ones, already gave them back to him. So I did cut some templates of the shapes so I can make some for myself. And they're basically spring steel, pretty much the same as using a steel filler applicator. And they're just set in these shapes here. One of them is a bit thicker than the other. So you've got one which is 0.6 and one which is 0.3. Don't know what that is in Imperial, but that's it for the spring steel. And the thicker one's going to give you a deeper, more scrape, more aggressive, taking that material off. And then the thinner one is more of your fine tuning. And you can use like these little shapes in here for doing that reverse bit, scraping in there. And you can flex them to the shape that you want, and then scrape it off on the top. It's pretty self-explanatory and pretty easy to shape, so there's nothing hard to it really, and they sort of do their own thing. So I have already made this. I'll jump into doing the other one, and it's the same as doing the rear quarters pretty much. So we'll punch these out, do these front ones, and then have a look at it on the car. This wheel arch is on and welded in. I've welded both wheel arches to both guards, but one of the guards was really bad. It was absolutely full of filler the whole way through. So for the price for me to fix that, it's cheaper to buy a guard and put my wheel arch onto it. So that's why this is a new guard, but we do have one original that's on the car still. And being a rally car, he doesn't really mind if it's not original, but this is it here. This is it here, and that's what that wheel arch is looking like. It's quite open. For now, I'm going to put a wide edge onto this so that under compression when the car's turning, if the tyre does hit, it'll hit that wide edge and just rub on it instead of gripping a flange and ripping the guard to pieces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim this flange down to about 11.5, 12 mil, run a wire in there, wire up that edge, which is going to add strength to this as well. And it's something that's done on old school cars, but in this aspect of what we're trying to achieve here, I think it'd be a good thing to wire up the edges on this. And I have wired the edge of the other guard already. It's back at the shop with the guys, they're working on it, getting it ready for this rally. So this one, I'll wire this up and then drop it off to them in the morning. So we'll get into it and do that. So that's it for the Mustang build, rear quarters and front guards. Couple of different ways in how you can get that shape for a wheel arch, and showing you a few different ways in how I shape this up as well. And whether you have a 90-degree flange, which I've got in the rear because it's not moving around that much, and then the wide edge up in the front. If you do want to know more on how to do a wide edge, I do have another video on wire edging and TIG welding, so go check that out. Support the channel, watch a few of the other videos, and I hope you have enjoyed and tune in to some more. We've got some more awesome builds going on in the workshop, so tune in.